Okay, part two of Renie. We last talked. Renie marries Buster at age 18. Buster fits in with the family hand in glove.
Yep.
Renie is still, stepping up to help anybody in the family with whatever they need, Buster included. You were going to talk that about the house that they bought with your mother.
Yeah.
Because your father dies
Yep.
shortly after Renie gets married,
No.
within a few years.
When did Renie get married?
56, 55? 55, say?
Yeah, about 5 years later, my father died.
And then but they were living in Southie,
Always lived in Southie,
Renie and Buster,
right on Knowlton Street.
on Knowlton Street.
In a big old house with like 7 bedrooms.
And they were renting that.
No, they owned that.
They own that.
Yeah. Yeah, they bought it. It was the Lynch family owned it. But the house had like 7 bedrooms, so
And they have Tommy Jr. in 1956, Susan in 1957, Jerry
that's
in
when my dad died, 57.
Okay, Jerry in 1958, and Patrick in 1964. But so they needed the house with all those bedrooms. So when does your mother move in with them?
My mother never moved in with them. My mother lived at 20 Comedy Court until my father died.
Yeah.
And she lived there for a few years after he died, which is a no-no because she had the 4-bedroom house. She had the kids, She had Jackie, Freddie, Betty, Lenny, and me at home. At 20 Comedy Court, my father had died. So at one point in time, Renie and Buster met me right after work and said, "Come by the house first on your way home. Want to show you something." So I dropped by Knowlton Street on my way home. I think I worked at D Street, the Stop and Shop office building on D Street. So I dropped by Knowlton Street. They threw me in the car. They said, "Come with us." They brought me to F Street. 5th Street and F Street. And I went into this house. And they asked me what I thought about the house. When you walked in the door, there was a living room and then a kitchen next door, and then there was a flight of stairs. There was a bathroom off the kitchen, and there was a flight of stairs upstairs, 2 bedrooms. Then there was 2 more bedrooms upstairs. So I said, "Yeah, it's not bad, why, what's going on?" They said, "Ma just bought it." So my mother owned her own house, which was, like in her dream of dreams. Growing up married to Dad, for the many years he was an alcoholic, moving into the housing project was like godsend to the family and my mother. But now she owned her own home, which was spectacular. I never particularly liked it, but I know she was happy, so I would never say anything. But actually, Renie and Buster bought the house, and my mother paid the mortgage and the taxes. So when it was all paid off, Renie and Buster would have just handed the mortgage to my mother, because it would have been her house, because she paid for it, which was, a big account. She owned her own house, which I know how she felt, because she once told Polly's Mary, after my dad had died, that she never had as much money available to her as she did since he died. Because she got his Social Security, his VA pension, and the room and board that I paid, Freddie paid, Lenny paid, whoever, whatever. But she thought she was rolling in the bucks.
So Renie and Buster helped your mother buy that house.
Yes,
And you, Freddie, Lenny, Betty, and Jackie move into that.
Jackie, Betty, and me, and Lenny.
What about Freddie?
Freddie was married.
By the time she buys that house.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Freddie had gotten married.
So you, Lenny, Betty, Jackie move into that house with your mother.
Yep.
And Renie and Buster live in that house too?
No.
No,
Renie
they
and
stay
Buster,
in Knowlton Street.
They had Knowlton Street.
Because they by now they've got at least 2 kids anyway.
Yep.
Maybe 3.
But they couldn't. My mother could never get credit
Right.
because she never owned anything in her life. So they used their credit to buy the house
And let, her
on
make
F
the,
Street
and let her make the payments.
and let her make the payments, and it was her house.
Yep.
For all intents and purposes, it was always her house, which is a big accomplishment because my mother died owning her own home.
Right.
And she died, I don't want to get into any detail on it, but I will tell you, I was a stuffy pain in the ass growing up and she used to say to me, you should be a cop. You're such a pain in the ass. But at one point in time, it dawned on me, I shouldn't be arguing with my mother about making sure Lenny gets a good education and not trapped into the system that he got trapped into. And make sure Freddie does. Make sure they all do. And I kept on happening, you gotta stay on him, you gotta stay on him. Then one day it dawned on me, she's tired. She just raised 12 kids. She's got 12 kids. And my father. So she had a hard-ass life. And it dawned on me, she doesn't need some clown like me telling her, you gotta stay on Freddie, you gotta stay on Lenny, you gotta make sure they go to school, you gotta get them in the right classes. I can't do it because I'm their brother. I was in school myself, and I kept on happening until that one day it dawned on me, and from that one moment on, I never bothered my mother about piddly stuff like that. And I think we had a better relationship, her and I. But the night she died, I came home from work, and I used to work sometimes to 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and she gave me supper, which was steak that she bought that was already cooked in an aluminum pan with thick dark gravy on it. So she gave me mashed potatoes and the steak. It was already sliced and cooked. And she just heated the whole thing up. And she asked me, how's supper? And I said, it's not bad. Why? What's the matter? She said, well, you would think I threw garbage at some of the people in this house. And she walked up the stairs in front of me, and she caved in. I could see her fall to her knees on the stairs. And I jumped and I said, call Renie now. And Renie was there in like 4 minutes. Okay? And between Renie and I, we got her to bed. And Renie had called 911. And that was the night my mother died. But I never said this to anybody, that whoever complained about supper bothered her severely because she said, if a penny ass like you like supper, it can't be that bad. You would think I threw garbage at somebody. And I never forgot that somebody, one of those three, said something about supper that finally hurt her to the point when she'd had a bad heart anyways, and I never understood buying a house with so many stairs. But she did, she was happy, and she passed away. So Jackie and Betty and Lenny moved in with Renie and Buster on Knowlton Street because they were still going to school. And I stayed and slept in a house on F Street. And then Renie told me that she's letting brother, sleep in the house because he had, I don't know, but she let him move into the house. So it was him and I. I was on the third floor sleeping, and he was sleeping in my mother's bedroom. He was drinking heavily at the time and smoking cigarettes. And the only thing I could ever think of was, I'm on the third floor on this house that's a fire trap with a skinny little flight of stairs going from the third floor down to the first floor to get out. If there was ever a fire, I was never going to get out. And I just could not sleep. And Cynthia and I had been planning our wedding for October of the following year. We were going to have a regular big church wedding with the white gown and tuxedos and all of that. And then my mother died, and I just couldn't sleep in that bedroom, knowing that he was sleeping in the room under me, drunk. And I never told anybody this either, except Renie and Buster. So I went down to Renie and Buster's after about 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. And I just told them, Renie, I can't stay there. I don't know where the hell I'm going to go, but I cannot sleep because I think he's going to burn the goddamn house down. Because he was drinking a lot. He went from being this great rock of the family to being the last alcoholic.
Yeah.
It scared the hell out of me every single night. And Renie said, move in with us.
So by now, it's gone from brother being the rock of the family to Renie being the rock of the family.
Yes,
And now,
Renie and Buster being Vox.
so Renie and Buster take in the 5 of you, 4 of you,
4 of us.
Along with their own kids.
Yes.
Yeah. All living on
And
Knowlton
it
Street.
worked, and it worked out great. It worked out great. Everybody, the Comfort kids were great. You know, maybe, you know, they didn't like the crowded stuff, but it worked out. Thank God. But because of the situation, Cynthia and I moved our wedding date from October to up to February.
Yeah. So this is 1964. Your mother dies on September 27th, 1964. You're going to get married in October 64. You end up getting married in February 65.
Right.
So
Yeah.
for a period of at least a few months there, you're living with Renie along with the other kids or
Yeah.
younger kids. And Renie's raising her own family.
Right.
Okay. You move out. how much longer would Betty and Jackie and Lenny end up staying with?
Until Lenny, I'm not sure. I'm sure until they get married, but
Mm-hmm.
Betty and Jackie were still in school. Betty graduated from high school. Jackie graduated from high school.
Then they kind of did their own thing.
Then they got married.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess.
So how much longer do Renie and Buster stay in Southie before they go to Randolph?
Probably another year or so. Because when I moved out of F Street into Renie and Buster's, they sold the house very quickly. Which meant brother had to move out.
Yeah.
Where he went, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they sold the house because it was their house,
Yeah.
their name on a mortgage. But
And then eventually sell Knowlton Street as well, and then they follow Bobby as the second, basically, to leave Southie.
they left Southie and moved to Randolph. And I can remember, I think it was Davy, when he drove to Randolph for the first time, he got off the expressway Route 27, I think it is, in Braintree, which is
37. Yeah,
37, leading up to Five Corners. And he got off there, went up to the Five Corners. I'm not going to get into that, but he turned onto Pond Street and drove up Pond Street for the 2 or 3 miles from Five Corners in Braintree to Renie and Buster's house.
Yeah, at the corner of Pond Street and, oh boy, we'll have to fill in the blank. But their house backed up to
Linden.
Pond Street, Linden, yeah.
Yeah.
And pretty big house,
Big house,
big yard.
big yard, big swimming pool.
Did they put the swimming pool in?
Yep.
They put the pool in?
Yep.
Pretty right. I mean, I always remember it being
Put the
there.
blacktop in.
Yeah, for the basketball
court.
Street hockey, yeah.
Yep. And we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, a little closer to Southie than Billerica. So
Yeah.
we're talking like maybe 10 miles south of South Boston, right down the bottom of the Southeast Expressway.
Yep.
Right there, sort of Milton, Quincy.
But again,
yeah.
everybody from Southie thought you needed a passport to go to Randolph.
Yeah,
Like, where the hell is Billerica? Well, where the hell is Randolph?
yeah,
We were very parochial back then.
yeah,
If it wasn't within 30, 40 yards of Ma's house, we thought we were in the boonies. But remember Davy saying, for Christ's sake, you know all the trees that are out here? There's more trees out here than there are people in Southie.
yeah.
Because of the, whatever. But
So Buster's working for the T.
Buster's working for the T.
Renie's got 4 young
Renie's
kids.
raising the kids.
Yeah,
The kids all are involved in sports of one kind or another. They all were great athletes. Cynthia and I got married, lived in
Quincy.
Quincy, off of Morrissey Boulevard, not Morrissey,
Gallivan. Yeah.
off of Gallivan Boulevard in Quincy, and we bought a house 30 yards
Yeah,
away,
I was going to say
30 yards away from Renie and Buster's house.
football field away or something.
Thank God, because Renie and Buster took care of Ronnie while we went to work, then took care of Allison when Allison got into the family. And they were very generous with their time, never batted an eyelash about taking care of our kids. But they were very good to Cynthia and I. And and we bought a house across the street, 30 yards away
Yeah.
from them.
we buy the house in like 1972 or something like that.
Something like that.
So Renie and Buster had been there for a few years.
For a few years, yeah.
Yeah.
They had a few family times.
Yeah, sure.
Nothing like Bobby and Ann's ever got out of control.
But it was different because it wasn't like a one-time event where everybody went. It was every other weekend, somebody or a combination of.
Yeah.
I always remember seeing everybody kind of matriculating through Renie and Buster's house,
Yep.
especially in the summer with the pool.
Yep.
You know, so there was always somebody there. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And they never had a problem with them.
Yeah.
I mean, the people in South even living across the street from Carson Beach, you know, would drive to Randolph to go to swim in the pool. But it was more to see Renie and Buster, who were fun,
Oh, ton of fun.
and there was always something going at Renie and Buster's house.
I mean, let's talk about that for a second because with like Davey and Marie or Ann and Bobby, there was this compliment. But Renie and Buster were both gregarious, outgoing,
Yep.
funny.
Yep.
I mean, really funny.
Yep.
I mean, Renie, hysterical. Buster was off the chart. I mean, Buster missed his calling. You know, he probably
Yeah.
should have been a stand-up comic or something, or sketch
Last
comic.
that rattle rap.
And Buster was loved entertaining the young kids, just you
Yeah.
know, making them laugh, and like you say, it did. They were just so open with their house and the pool, but then also just entertaining people and
Yep.
keep, you know, like you say, the life of the party.
Yep.
Yeah, and their kids too all had, you know, the apple didn't fall very far from the tree, honestly. Like, you know,
Right.
pretty talkative, open people.
Yep,
You know,
very.
enjoy the laugh.
Yep. And enjoy talking to the kids.
Yeah, I mean,
And no, that was a good time. At any rate, at some point in time, Renie and a couple of girls in that neighborhood worked down at the Five Corners, the Chinese restaurant. And they made good money. And then this big, splendiferous building called Lantana
yeah,
opened up in Randolph.
big function hall.
Yep, about a half a mile away from, you know, Renie and Buster's house. And Renie and the girls from the Chinese restaurant pretty much moved up to getting work up there as catering the big weekend functions.
So they're waitressing where you're carrying the huge tray with like
Yeah.
10 plates on it for a
Yep,
table.
big, yep.
Yeah.
But they made good money up there, very good money.
Yeah.
And then, and before that, while Renie was working at the Chinese restaurant, and she should just drive down Pond Street, right into the Five Corners. Not somebody would pick her up and bring her to the Five Corners restaurant.
Renie didn't drive.
She got a driver's license eventually, which was a story into itself.
Tell that
again.
story. So tell at least that one story you told me about.
Well, one of the times she got a driver's license, and she was driving from her house to the Five Corners, and Renie and Buster were involved in the town activities because the kids were involved in all the sports. Buster was involved in the VFW. They were very involved, and they knew everybody, and everybody knew them. And Renie's driving down Pond Street to the Five Corners to go to work, and she's driving, and a cop steps out in one of the side streets and starts waving at Renie. And Renie waves back at him. The cop jumps in his cruiser and chases her down and catches her just before she gets in the Braintree. Pulls her over and says, you know, Renie, what the hell are you doing? I waved you down. She said, no, I thought you were waving to me.
Just saying hi.
Just to say hi.
And she's flying down Pond Street.
He said, no, I got to give you a ticket because you were flying down Pond Street.
Yeah.
You know, for her to be flying anywhere.
Yeah.
But that's one of the funny stories of Renie and her driving. And whenever you drove with Renie, or you let Renie in your car, if you were driving with her, she was constantly slamming the brake on her side of the car,
Pretending, yeah, like
to the point that you would say, "Get the hell in the back seat." She would drive you nuts, because if you came within 20 yards of a car, she was pounding the floor. But yeah, no, they more than generous with their time, their house, their everything, and and at some point in time they had a rough patch, and they just went their separate ways for a while. Yep.
yeah, but you know, again, just those were great years in Randolph. Great for the family. Another place for people to
Yep.
gather, get together. You know, the pool was obviously great. I mean, I remember, obviously I spent a lot of time there. Like you said, they babysat Allison, my sister, your daughter. Allison was very close with all of the Comerford kids.
They thought her like she was their sister.
Absolutely. Buster loved Allison. Absolutely loved
Yeah.
Allison. Yeah, just great memories. And I just remember laughing all the time, you know. And what was great about Renie and Buster too is, you know, they would needle you, you know, you could needle them, or the Comerford kids, like you could
Yeah.
take, you know, everyone could, probably me the least of all, but could take a joke, you know. And you had to be prepared. You had to have your wits about you.
You better be prepared.
Yeah, because you know, Renie would have something to say or whatever.
Yeah.
But always in good humor. And we're still going. There's still a lot more to talk about with Renie. She has a whole other version of her life after the kids grow. You know, graduate from high school or go on to college. I think Jerry went and played football out in South Dakota, if I remember rightly.
South Dakota, North Dakota, one that's still.
Yeah, what's the difference, right? But
Yeah.
to Jerry there was. Patrick joins the Marines.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, Susan gets married, has her own family there. Obviously, Tommy goes off to college too, and has his family. So they had a ton of grandkids, and all remain very close.
Yep.
Why
To this
don't
day.
Yeah? Why don't we take one other break? We'll do a part 3 on Renie
Okay.
and talk about her whole second act.
Okay.
Okay.